Hi everyone, it's Zara Altair with Actation Now here at the Midweek Zap, and our guest today is Craig Fifield of Circloscope. I'm so excited to have Craig here today. And Craig, you want to tell us a little bit about who you are for the people who don't know?
Sure. I got my start in the web marketing space back in the end of 95, 96, where I quickly took some classes. I kind of found out the internet was kind of taking off then. So I took some classes, learned how to make websites, and just quickly started calling myself a web developer. Soon after I did that, I ended up getting hired at a local startup where we were making some of the first web marketing tools for small business. And within a year after that, that was right around when the internet bubble was happening, and all the companies were getting bought up. Microsoft stepped in and bought the startup I was working at. So I ended up working at Microsoft in Boston for about another 10 years, continuing to develop the same products and some other products for web marketing, all web-based tools, not so different than Circloscope. Since 2007, I've been on my own, just doing consulting and kind of relaxing a bit until around Christmas last year, or right around the New Year. Christine invited me to become part of the Circloscope team. So it's me, Christine, and Essen, the developer, working on Circloscope, which is a tool for managing your circles on Google+.
Okay, and we're going to get more into Circloscope in just a couple of minutes, but I promised Craig long ago that we were going to talk a little bit about beer today. So, Craig, I'm pretty much a cider drinker, apple cider, hard cider. So tell us a little bit about when you're sitting out on that deck, relaxing and sipping on a beer, what's your beer of choice?
Well, when I'm sitting on that deck, I'm in drinking a lot of beer mode, not sipping on a beer. So when I'm drinking a lot of beer, I just stick with the regular old light beer because it is truly less filling. So when I'm up there, it tends to be like a lot of Miller Lite is my favorite light beer. But when I'm at home or when I'm out to eat, I drink a lot of different, mostly IPAs from Maine and New England. I like to, support the local economy with all that money I'm spending on beer.
I know that when I'm out and I have beer, I'm usually with local IPAs as well, but they're West Coast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had a great question from Tim Sweeney, and I wanted to bring it up because I think it's so important thinking about entrepreneurship and how you get going. So Tim asks, Zara, looking forward to hearing and learning from Craig Fifield insights. Not sure if I can make it back for the live version. One question I'd like to ask is, what was the genesis or spark for creating Circloscope? Thanks. Thanks, Tim. Great question.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tim. So the genesis actually came from Essen, our developer. He was the one that originally created the product, I think 2 or maybe 3 years ago now, at least 2.5 years ago, when he was first on Google+. And I believe what he did was just trying to manage his circles and realize the limitations. If you really try to start using Google+ heavily and trying to gain a solid following, and managing who's in which circle, and trying to reach out and follow a lot of the engagers, it's very difficult to do that by hand. It's extremely time consuming. So as soon as you try to do that regularly by hand, it becomes pretty obvious soon that you need a tool or some type of solution to be, before I found Circloscope, I was even thinking of hiring a VA to help me with, managing that process. It's just not worth your time. And I think that's what set off the light bulb for Essen is, why don't I just build this tool?
Well, it's a super fantastic tool, and some people are new to the concept, and Manny St. Victor asks, I like vigorous, but would like productive even better. Will you be covering the basics?
So I can't really do a screen share to cover the basics, but I can tell you basically how it works, or the main features of Circloscope. So if you want to build your engagement on any social network, the easiest or the smartest thing to do is to reach out and start following and engaging with the people that are engaging with content that you'll create, that you produce yourself, or will be producing yourself. So on Google+, the way to do that is to find posts in your niche. So if you're an SEO, or like in my case, I'm an SEO, in the past, so I would look up all the posts on SEO and find the people that are commenting, find the people that wrote the post, find the people that are commenting on the post, plussing the post, sharing the post, and start following those people because they're showing that they're engaged with that type of content. And then once I have them in a circle, it's very easy for me to engage with them and grow that interaction. And Circloscope can automate that process for you. So when you find those popular SEO posts where you're going to want to follow the engagers, you can just plug those into Circloscope, extract the engagers into your circle, and it's much more automated. It saves you a ton of time. And then once you have those circles, we have a whole bunch of filters within Circloscope that help you manage those circles and clean them up. So you can do things like remove profiles that aren't very active, or people that have blueheads, which is no profile image. Just a whole ton of other features you can even do by location or by email. Just streamlining the process of managing your circles, because there's only so much time in the day.
I found it, one of the first ways that I use Circloscope was, I still have them. I have these people that follow me for reasons unknown to me, and the following keeps growing and growing, and I go into Circloscope and first clean out all the blueheads right away,
Yeah.
And then one of the other tools that I found really handy is how much engagement those people have actually done on Google+,
Yeah.
so that you can go back a month, 2, 3, and I start with 3 months. If they haven't done anything on Google+, it's probably not going to be happening.
Right.
And I can take those people out. And so those are some of the basic first steps you can take, and they're very helpful because as things go on and you grow who you are following, Google Plus at this time has a limit of 5,000. And so one of the things that happened when I started, I'm just using this as an example because it happens to a lot of people. I started and I didn't know what I was doing, and I started following a lot of photographers because I love photography.
Mm-hmm.
And I was following people who, like kitties because I love my kitties and love kitty stuff. And, now I'm being a little more astute about who is in those circles because I don't want every photographer in the world. I'm not interested in pictures of beautiful girls in sexy poses. That just doesn't do
Right.
anything for me. So if that's a photographer's main subject matter, then I can take them out. So the filtering properties of Circloscope are so great for really honing down who you are engaging with and who's following you that doesn't really either interact with you or even have much of a presence on Google Plus itself.
Yeah.
And we have a question from Kevin Burns. Kevin, we kind of answered your question. Craig
A little bit.
Albert, what is the backstory where you and Christine DeGraff bumped into each other and formed the Circloscope business team? You want to expand on that in any way, Craig?
Yeah, sure. So what happened was Christine, I believe what happened was Christine was invited by Essen, the developer, because he realized he needed help. He had the old version of Circloscope running, and he just realized it was too big of a project for one person. So he invited Christine DeGraff on board. I think maybe 3 or 4 months before, I forget when, maybe October or November last year. And then Christine and I had met on Mia Voss's Hangout. So we were on, I forget why we were even on, but it was one of the first times I had been on Hangout and one of the first times Christine had been on. And just in the green room after the show, we were like, you want to do a Hangout together? And we were starting that talk, because we just get along well and we have similar backgrounds. And that kind of petered out. We stayed in touch, and actually we started doing, I started being the guest host on one of their other Hangouts. And then over time, Christine realized they needed another person on Circloscope. It was even bigger than her and Essen could handle. And she invited me to join them, mostly because, we got along well, but she knew my Microsoft background as being a product manager for software tools. And that's how it started. It really started from me actually using Google+ the way you should. Because I got on Mia's show by interacting in her comment stream, and one day she had me on, and then that's how I bumped into Christine, and it just kind of went from there.
That is definitely how it works on Google+. It's
Cool.
It's just amazing. And then William Rock had a question. How do we know the blueheads will not actually start engaging in the future? And before Craig says anything, I'm going to give you my 2 cents. And that is that we don't. But if they do actually start engaging, they'll show up again.
Yep, that's the right answer. I thought you were going to leave that part out. But
No, if they're really going to start engaging on Google+, they're going to start showing up. And at that time, if they're engaging and they're following you and they follow you, then it's a whole new story. But right now, if you go back and you look at someone who's a bluehead and say they haven't engaged for 3 months, why? Why do you want them in your circles? There's no reason. There's just absolutely no reason. And Craig, just so you know, I don't know if you're following the comment stream or not, but Christine stopped by. She wanted to say hi. She's going to watch later.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody, we're at the Midweek Zap, and our guest is Craig Fifield. And Craig, tell us 2 exciting announcements just this week. We had no idea when we set this up weeks ago that 2 announcements were going to be coming out this week about improvements in Circloscope. So you want to tell us first about the first one that came out, and that is working with NodeX3.
Yep. So we're excited to finally have an integration with NodeX. And Lee Smallwood, he's just a great guy to be working with in his team. So what the integration does is, if you're a premium NodeX user, when you're within your NodeX account, there's one area that has the top post. So you set up different campaigns within NodeX to monitor, and you can see the top post of that campaign. And what it does is, right next to the Google+ post, you'll get a little Circloscope icon if you're also a Circloscope user. And you can just click the icon to suck that post into Circloscope so that you can extract and filter the engagers on those posts and add them to a circle. That's pretty much it. It's really just a big time saver if you're a NodeX user and a Circloscope user, because you would be doing that anyways, and now it just saves you a bunch of time. Streamlined.
It's very It's just great. It's
It is
just
cool.
great, and it's really cool. I was playing with it. I played with it a couple of times this week, and for our audience, Lee Smallwood of Nodex is going to be with us in I've lost track. It's the first week of September, whatever that date is, 3rd maybe, something like that. Anyway, so Lee's going to be here, and we'll learn more specifically about Nodux, but it is a super great integration. It's just fabulous. And for those who aren't so techy and don't use so many tools, you want to tell us about the most recent announcement with Circloscope's very slick deal. I love it.
Yeah. So now with the release of the Node X integration, we actually had a feature in there that we're testing. So it may change a little, but what this feature enables you to do is, if you have Circloscope open, you can right-click on any page or even a link and export that or import that into Circloscope so that you can then extract the engagers and filter them and create a circle or do whatever you like with them. And the idea there is just people previously had to open a Google+ post and copy the URL, paste it over into Circloscope, and then do all their work. Or use a blog post, copy the URL, move it over to Circloscope, and do all your work. A very manual process. Now we've taken a couple of the steps out. All you really have to do is right-click on a link or a page, and you can import that URL right into Circloscope and start doing your work. So again, it all comes back to saving more and more time and streamlining the flow so that you have more time to do real business.
It is. It's just a super tool, and going back and forth and copying and pasting is not something anybody particularly wants to be doing. And so I think the new integration is just really exciting. But let's go back to the very first part of that process, and that is opening Circloscope itself. Because we have people who are viewers and who listen to podcasts and watch on YouTube, and some of them are pretty new to everything, trying to get a grip. All those blueheads who are going to come back a few months later and get everything going. And do people need to be using Chrome as a browser to use Circloscope?
Yeah, so right now Circloscope is a Chrome extension, so you will have to use the Chrome browser. But even if you're a Firefox user or an IE user, it'd be worth it. I know people hate to switch over, and I used to be a major Firefox user, so I would have hated to switch just for this, but it is worth it. Even you don't have to run Circloscope every day or every minute. You can run it once a week, twice a week, so you would only have to pop Chrome open just for that. But I think once people use it, and if you're really trying to build your presence on Google+, you'll be over in Chrome all the time playing with Circloscope.
Then Lee has a follow-up question to the integration from Lee Rickler. What does the Circloscope Nodex integration bring to Circloscope? Great question, Lee. I'm a premium Circloscope user, but not really got my head around Nodex, and so I haven't used a paid-for version. So you want to expand on that a little bit? And I love that question. So you're making this grand announcement.
Yep.
And then, so what does the integration bring to Circloscope?
So for us, for Circloscope, the company, it will bring potential new users of a Circloscope from Nodex. So they have a lot of premium users, that are agencies and companies using Nodex, that when they see the integration, because the integration is announced to them, they could become paying or users of Circloscope to get the ability to easily extract the engagers and be able to circle them within Circloscope. As far as the average Circloscope user, there's no benefit unless you have to be a premium Nodex 3 user as well. And that's that. If you are a premium Nodex user, it's much quicker to get the work done that you'd be doing anyway. So Nodex doesn't do any circling. It just provides the reporting and data around your campaigns. Circloscope is handling the step where you can actually circle the people that are engaging with the content that you discover using NodeX.
Yes, so and then on the just to follow up on that, the premium NodeX is not that expensive as I remember.
I would hate to misquote it, but yeah, it's pretty low.
It's
not that much money.
it's very low, so it's definitely worth investigating. And as I mentioned, Lee Smallwood is gonna be with us in a couple of weeks, and he can answer a lot more questions about NodeX and the difference between premium and not on all
That'll
of
be a good
that.
show. Lee will be a great guest.
Yeah, and I mean, I know, in NodeX, if the little Circloscope circle is right there, and you can just, you know, you find the information for your project that you have on NodeX, and then bingo, you can just go to Circloscope and use the filtering systems on Circloscope to really fine tune what has come up from that project. So, and I'm really not a major data girl, but I find it really helpful for me to find out who's been engaging, why they're engaging, why some posts say or something on my website is getting attention and others aren't. It's just a good way for me to get a grip on all that. And then the ones that do get, action, as it were, it's so easy now to bop over to Circloscope and look at who's there and add them to your circles if they're not already there. So one of the ways that Circloscope really helps all of us on Google Plus is that we can really fine-tune who is in our circles and focus on engaging with those people. Just to go back to the whole bluehead conversation that popped up a few minutes ago, the blueheads are not interacting with you, at this point in time. If there is a bluehead that, here's just what I do, but if there's a bluehead that actually interacts with me, I actually, pop right back to them and say, hey, thanks for, your comments and da-da-da. But I noticed, that...
What's wrong with your head?
Yeah, I noticed that you still have, you don't have a photo up, and part of the way that Google Plus works is, through interaction with people. And without an image of you, people have no idea. They just have no idea who you are, what you like to talk about. I mean, they don't even get that first hit of who you are, much less, when your hover card pops up or any of that stuff. And to even go back further, I was talking with Craig in the green room before the show, and I said, I send new people to his profile page as an example of how a profile page tells you about that person, because you all might, if you haven't been to his profile, I just highly suggest you go there because it's really fun. It's really fun, and it tells you a lot about Craig. And for me, when I first went there, I was like, oh boy, I really want to know this guy. This guy sounds like he has fun as well as working hard. And so that's essentially just a super example, and why I listed it in the long, event description, because it is a lot of fun to read. Okay, let's see. Okay.
I think actually David Pipe in the comments mentioned the same thing you did. Is that when he sees engaging blueheads, he'll do the same thing and tell them that if they should get a real photo.
Here it is. I found it. I'll just bring it up for everybody. I invite possibly interesting blueheads to actually get an avatar. About 20% of the time, they oblige. And that's about what I find as well, is that especially when people are new to Google Plus, they just don't know, you know.
Yep. Well, and yeah, yeah. If you have the time to do that, that's ideal. Because for me, it's almost like banner blindness. You know how in the ad world, all the banners on the web, people tend not to really see them. And that's why you see all the different formats and autoplaying and all that. It's the same with blueheads for me. If I'm scrolling through comments, if you have a bluehead, and sometimes even like David has just an avatar, it looks like, um, I kind of block those right out. I scroll right past looking for real people to talk to.
And then William Rock also says, I have many people I follow with blue heads as they are just starting out on Google Plus and still don't understand. Look at it with an executive just learning and had not had time yet to even use the tools. And then they figure it out, then their profile develops. That's really true, William, and you're a very kind-hearted person to give them that encouragement. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess we should be clear too. There's nothing inherently wrong or bad about blueheads.
Right.
They all just either they just it is a strong signal of a profile that might not be ideal to spend time with. There's certainly plenty of blueheads that are real people behind there and worth interacting with.
Yes, and then, okay, I'm going to follow up with one more from William Rock. My wife was a bluehead for almost a year. Now she's coming away from Facebook into Google+, and I am a geek. And, well, she is learning. Now the profile is getting better the more she is online. And
Awesome.
that is definitely how it works. Thanks for sharing that, William.
Well,
Wonder you're so kind-hearted to blueheads.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to forget too when you just jump into it, like a lot of us have, and you use an appropriate photo and all that. It's just a minute ago that the web was really anonymous, and you hid behind avatars and screen names, and you never wanted anyone to know who you were. So it's totally understandable that people are new and don't know, and that still there's a whole group of people that are still a little uncomfortable showing their face and letting it all hang out.
Mm-hmm. It is, and I know I've been working with people who are new to Google Plus, and it takes them a while to understand about the engagement part of using what Google calls this layer of engagement, and why the photo is important, and why that profile is important, and why the hover card is important.
Yeah.
Because when people hang out over your name, your little hover card pops up, and that's the first thing they know about you.
Yep.
Which then you want, hopefully, will lead them to that engaging profile page. And it's true that as we get involved with all of that, we forget that it can be very bewildering at the beginning. It can be very bewildering, and the same with organizing your circles, or even just naming them and giving and prioritizing them so the three most important ones show up at the top.
Right.
And all of those things, and that those are things that people learn sort of before they get to Circloscope, because all of a sudden once you start engaging, woo, notifications come streaming by and the circles grow and you don't know where to put people, and things start happening. There's really a lot of exponential growth on Google+, and I think it's one of the reasons that Circloscope is growing in popularity and is offering for us as users all these incredible tools and filters, and now the integrations, and especially the new one of having Circloscope open and being able to go directly from a post. That just is a super time saver. Super time saver.
I haven't even had to use it that much yet.
Yeah,
Later
exactly.
today.
You know, the first couple of times, I know it was kind of overwhelming. And one of the things I did, one of the very first things I did, and I think after I did it, I think it was reinforced the next day by something Christine DeGraff said. You know, is like whitelist the people you don't want to eliminate.
Right. Yeah, that's really good.
So, you know, the people that you don't want to lose for any reason, if you go through and whitelist them, even if you're cleaning out your circles, they will always stay in there. And I think that's a really important part, because otherwise you're going to be going through, you know, if you have someone in 2 different circles for different reasons,
Yeah.
you're going to be going through looking to see that you're not going to eliminate somebody.
Right.
So I think the whitelisting is a really helpful part of what Circloscope has to offer when you first get started. And if you're not using Circloscope already, I really encourage you to use it. It's a time saver. It's a super time saver, and in a couple of ways. It helps you streamline your circles. It helps you to manage your circles better. And the benefit of being able to do all that, because that's just, you know, moving things and clearing things out. But the benefit is that it really, really grows your engagement. As you engage more and you focus in on the people that are in those circles that you have identified, you're able to engage with them, and you grow. You grow, and your presence grows on Google+. And I think that is the super best benefit of all. I think it's why most of us are here. We want more engagement, and Circloscope is a super tool for doing that.
I agree.
I'm reading a comment here. Let's see.
So while you're reading that, one of the important tips that I didn't mention is when people are using Circloscope, the main thing that you just touched on is you should be really very specific with the types of people that you follow and circle. So very specific to exactly what they'll find on your profile. So either what your profile about says about you, or what the content that you're sharing. You should only really be following people or circling people with Circloscope that match that perfectly. So in the past, I've circled people that were interested in Google authority or Google authorship. I've circled people about SEO. I've circled people about WordPress. But just because you know, I like doing home repair, I'm not out doing a bunch of circles around home repair, because it's not going to be, they're not going to see that very often on my profile. And although I may find some engagers, it's not going to be the right kind of engagement for my business long term.
That's a super example. That's just a super example. And then I wanted to bring up Kevin's comment now that I've read it. Kevin says, David Henry Pipe, I understand Craig Fifield's take on blueheads and avatars. I think very similar to him on the front here on Google+. However, there are a few that operate on the top shelf. Lesson: watch, observe, always exercise caution. That's good words.
Yep.
I can't believe it, but we've already gone over our time. I just this was a super fast show. Craig, all of you should add Craig to your circles if you haven't already. And I want to thank you so much, and congratulations on your 2 new aspects of Circloscope this week. Very, very exciting news. Thank you so much. This is the Midweek Zap. Next week, Bill Boyer's going to be with us. He's going to be breaking some rules and talking about his new book that's coming out. So hope to see you next week. So Craig, let's say goodbye to everyone, and thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Super Zaptor audience. Thanks for being with us today. Thank you.